Today, the western half of Washington state is woefully underbuilt in terms of ski resorts. This has led to increased demand at existing resorts like Stevens Pass, Summit at Snoqualmie, and Crystal Mountain. These mountains have recently implemented measures such as paid parking to try and curtail overcrowding. What's really unfortunate though, in the light of the present challenges faced by the Washington ski market, is the untimely closure of Mount Pilchuck. With all that said, let's dive right into the history of this mountain. The Pilchuck Ski Club originally formed in 1951. In the early days of the club, ski jumping was more of a main focus versus downhill skiing. However, in 1957, seeking a more permanent home, the club leased 80 acres of northwest-facing land on the slopes of Mount Pilchuck. Pilchuck Park Lifts Incorporated was formed and constructed a day lodge and a handful of rope tows. Through the sale of public stock, the company hoped to raise $300,000 to install a double chairlift. The corporation had a 5-year lease to the land, with the possibility of a 16-year extension after 1963. By 1963, the Forest Service had approved the upper chairlift plans, and a 4,000-foot-long double chair was installed by Riblet. In 1964, a serious scandal involving the Pilchuck ski area and Governor Dan Evans drew lots of attention. Reportedly, Mount Pilchuck filed a $1.6 million lawsuit against the state, alleging a breach in the state's contract to maintain the access road. In a panic, Governor Dan Evans authorized a $300,000 emergency fund to be used to fix the road. This was despite the fact that Mount Pilchuck had not made its last land lease payment to the state. Although the governor received much anger towards this payment, he refused to back down, and the road was newly paved in 1965. The ski resort ended up dropping the lawsuit. Mount Pilchuck operated the upper chairlift until 1967, when the lower chairlift was constructed, also by Riblet. This new terrain opened up lots of beginner alternatives and was a big draw for new skiers. The ski resort was sold in 1970 to a new investor who introduced plans to build a third chairlift above the tree line. This terrain had a fairly reliable snowpack, unlike the lower base, and would have ensured the long-term success of the mountain. These plans were studied by the Park Commission, although in the latter half of the 1970s, the resort experienced some of its worst winters ever. Generally, Pilchuck always opened around a month later than its competitors, however, it was especially bad during these years. Additionally, Pilchuck was significantly underdeveloped compared to its competitors. With a smaller ski season and underbuilt facilities, something needed to change. It was even proposed in 1977 to waive Pilchuck's rent. In 1979, Mount Pilchuck's lease came to an end. The mountain tried to renew the lease along with a 10-year master development plan that would have seen additional terrain above the existing chairlift. However, both applications were denied. According to the Forest Service, it's not that we don't want to see skiing up there, it's just that we haven't seen much skiing there since the area opened. With this, the downhill ski resort on Mount Pilchuck permanently closed. Both Riblet doubles were sold to nearby Crystal Mountain. The lodge was gradually vandalized over time until a fire took out the remainder of the structure. Today, all that remains of the ski resort is the access road and parking lot. Mount Pilchuck had a total vertical drop of 1,535 feet. The lowest elevation is around 2,700 feet, with the top elevation around 4,800 feet. I have to imagine that the lower slopes often experience variable snow cover, while the upper slopes would have been more reliably open. Mount Pilchuck was basically split up into two sections. The access road, parking lot, and lodges really made for a tight base area. In the upper section, the Yellow Jacket chair serviced pretty much all terrain. With an 1,100-foot vertical drop, this would have been where the best terrain on the mountain was. The chairlift had an intermediate station servicing a blue and a black run, though in reality, the solo area is pretty much clear-cut. From the top, the skier only had two steep options to choose before mellower terrain appears. There's also a longer blue trail that looks like it could have been an access road. Finally, at the base area, there were a few rope tow options for the first-time beginner skier. Now, let's discuss the less steep options at Pilchuck. The lower mountain chair serviced much mellower terrain. Interestingly, the chairlift crossed the parking lot, and it looks like skiers had to find a way to cross it as well. The 2 green trails off this lift are fairly mellow. There apparently was a bit of a steeper trail following the chair. Due to the low elevation of this lift, I have to imagine that it wasn't open often. While it's difficult to know the exact location of the trails, I can only guess that this was approximately how the area skied. Mount Pilchuck's closure was unfortunate. As mentioned before, in an era where Washington has an abundance of skiers and a lack of ski resorts, Mount Pilchuck would have certainly found its niche. While low snow levels were definitely an issue, had the resort been able to expand up, perhaps they would have been able to continue operating. Ultimately, we'll never know. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to my channel. And until next time, this is Skier72.